from the finance and debt for the great work they have been doing, and especially making our work very easy by making sure that they avail the requisite resources that the Budget and Appropriations Committee needs to appropriate and allocate to several programs. Madam Speaker, I wish now to go to the issues. And as we go to the issues, I want this Honorable House and the members and Kenyans at large to appreciate the circumstances at which we have been making this budget, Madam Speaker, and especially the estimates for financial year 2023-2024. One, Madam Speaker, in the recent past, we've had a very severe drought in this country, Madam Speaker, that has cut off the supply of food, Madam Speaker. Around the same period, because of the same, we have seen, and especially for the last 1-2 years, we have seen an escalation in terms of inflation, Madam Speaker, the figures going down. Whereas at the current situation, it is not as bad as it has been. In the past medium term, Madam Speaker, the case has not been very good. Madam Speaker, also, around the same circumstances, we have been facing global inflation, which is not just affecting our country, Kenya, but affecting majority of the economies of the world. Madam Speaker, also, I wish also to mention one very specific matter that has been very bad to majority of the emerging economies. Madam Speaker, there is a phrase that when the economy of the US coughs, then the other emerging economies, and even the developing economies, they catch a cold. Madam Speaker, out of the interventions that were made by the US government, of especially giving COVID-19 checks, Madam Speaker, to spur the economy, this led to runaway inflation in the US. And for the Fed to contain the same, they have had to raise interest rates for 10 consecutive times, Madam Speaker, to the current level of 5.2% in terms of the Fed rate. Madam Speaker, some would ask, we are reading the Kenyan budget, why are we referencing around the US? Madam Speaker, Kenya is part of the global picture of the economy. And what has happened, Madam Speaker, is that every time the Fed raises interest rates, we have had capital flights from all the economies of the world, and especially hitting even hard the emerging economies. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we have had capital flights from Kenya, from the other emerging economies, from all the economies, Madam Speaker, because majority of the investors who would rather invest in Kenya, and especially in instruments that do not guarantee them fixed income, they have been trooping to the US, where there is no issue about currency exchange, and they could do well with the current rates in the US, and especially insofar as fixed income instruments are concerned. That is the same reason why, Madam Speaker, we have also seen the NSC, the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We have seen stocks going down. This is not just a Kenyan issue. If you go to London Stock Exchange, it is the same. It has been going down, Madam Speaker, and other security exchanges across the world, and especially by investors who are taking their capital to the United States. Madam Speaker, the same compounds the matter of our imports. Because, Madam Speaker, Kenya is a net importer. And when you have a greenback, which is very dominant, and which is rising in terms of its strength, then what that consequently means is that our local currency continues, Madam Speaker, to lose. When our local currency loses, then this adds to the cost of the import, and especially this is bad when an economy is a net importer. Madam Speaker, I have dwelt on that matter because it has very far-reaching effects, yet, Madam Speaker, it is not usually much referenced. Madam Speaker, I wish to bring to this House what I would call the framework of the current budget and the estimates. The report before us, Madam Speaker, we are making a budget of Kenya shillings 3.679 trillion Kenya shillings. Madam Speaker, out of which, on the revenue side, we are expecting to raise 2.57 trillion Kenya shillings in terms of ordinary revenue. We are expecting to have appropriations in aid, which is A&A, of around 347 billion. Madam Speaker, we expect to have 42 billion Kenya shillings in terms of grants, and therefore, Madam Speaker, that leaves us with a fiscal deficit of around 718 billion. Madam Speaker, on the expenditure side, we are expecting to spend roughly 1.6 trillion Kenya shillings in terms of national government recurrent. Madam Speaker, we'll be spending around 718 in development. Madam Speaker, the same period of time, that is financial year 2023-2024, we have allocated 986 billion, unprecedented figure, in CFS